So first of all, what attracted you to this series?
Oh, well, combination. Harrison, definitely, huge pull for me to have the opportunity to work again with Harrison. But also, it's so far from my experience. And so, the adventure of it just played into my sense of adventure and excitement. And to find myself in Montana, which I'd never been to before, in that, and not just Montana, but the wildness of and the magnificence of that kind of landscape in America was just very exciting to experience.
So you love the big sky country.
I do. I mean, I came to America, the first time I came to America, I came to do theatre. And I was working in San Francisco, and our next gig was in Detroit. And so we had 3 days. So I took a train across America rather than flying.
This is back in...
This was in the late 60s, early 70s, so a long time ago. But it really taught me about what it means to be American. Because when you just fly into New York, of course, New York is absolutely American and a particular kind of America, and Los Angeles likewise. But it's only when you travel across America and you see the landscape that those people walked across that you really start to get a glimpse of what it means to be American.
What does it mean to be American?
It means that you grasp the cruelty and the beauty and the implacability of nature. It's massive and it's profound, and anyway, and you only get a little tiny inkling of it, obviously.
In some ways, 1923 is pretty familiar territory. It's these kind of courageous, hardy, risk-taking frontier people. But the series also portrays this chapter in American history not only as disturbingly violent, but horrifically racist. And I wondered if that's part of what drew you to this series, this kind of unvarnished take on this period.
Yes, of course. I think it's a period that has been looked at over and over and over again and romanticized and whitewashed, certainly, through the 50s and the 60s. And I used to hate cowboy movies, actually. I hated them. I hated the women in cowboy movies, and I just never liked cowboy movies because I guess the fakeness of them, without really understanding, maybe I instinctively sort of understood the fakeness of them. And it's only really very recently that an honest look is beginning to come at American history.
This series is not whitewashing anything.
No.
And that's part of what drew you to it.
Yes, I think absolutely. I think that Taylor Sheridan's look, I call it actually, without being too pretentious about it, it's kind of the American War and Peace. It's kind of looking at the big movement of history in America, hopefully with honesty and truth, and not shying away from as you said, the incredible racism, the violence, the brutality, the courage. In our piece, there's a very bad winter is coming in. And my God, it's so cold in Montana. When it gets cold, it is so cold. And these people out there facing, on the edge of starvation, facing that kind of a winter. They were tough, those people, my God.
The abuse of Native Americans is particularly difficult to watch. Do you think that it's important for that to be shown in popular culture, for Americans to see that aspect of their history?
Yes, it is. I think there is a great consciousness in America for the way America was taken from the Native Americans. Taylor faces that very absolutely face on, and very clearly, yeah.
Your part, Cara Dutton, I mean, she is a very fierce woman, but she's part of a kind of long tradition of fierce women played by Helen Mirren. In fact, I'm not sure that anyone plays ferocious quite like you do. Are you drawn to these women who have something kind of burning inside them?
It's always great, that's your dream as an actress is to find a role that, especially as a woman, incidentally, that has agency and passion and courage. I think Cara, the thing that I love about Cara Dutton is actually her relationship with her husband, and the two of them together, and I love that relationship, and I found it so easily and comfortably with Harrison. It was such a great experience, and that sense of a team. They're in this together. They're a team. They're facing the world together. And I thought Taylor really wrote a very truthful understanding of how that sort of relationship that has existed for many, many, many years and they've faced so many challenges together over the years. I love to see that, to see that relationship on the screen.
Are you thinking about these sort of fierce women that you tend to play? I mean, are you a bit fierce? Are you ferocious? Is that part of your makeup?
I don't know. I would say I'm not ferocious. I'm really not. I'm much too wimpy to be ferocious. Do Americans say wimpy? Do they understand the word wimpy?
I think so, yeah,
wimpy means like cowardly and
I don't
pathetic.
really buy it that you're a wimp, but sure, I think
oh
Americans
no, I'm
say
a total
wimpy.
wimp. I am. I'm not a confrontational person at all.
Really?
I mean, I think that I'm argumentative maybe sometimes. I used to be much more when I was younger, I would defend positions that I thought were correct, but I don't think I'm ferocious at all. No, but maybe other people would have a different idea of me. I don't know.
I mean, you've done some groundbreaking things in your career that suggests that you're pretty fierce.
Yes, well, I think I was brave. I have to say, as a young actress, I think I was courageous. I was, and keen to sort of break down attitudes that I thought were old-fashioned or retrograde or wrong, just wrong. So I relished having roles. That's a great thing about drama, is that it can do that, without being lecturing, because it's entertaining you at the same time. It can really, change people's attitudes about things.
You've said some beautiful things about working with Harrison Ford. You have said that he's immensely generous and not a spoiled movie star. He says that you're a delight. It sort of sounds like you actually really like each other.
We do really like each other. I hope I really like him. Whether he really likes me or not, I don't know. But I absolutely adore him. And, his trajectory and the way he is, considering, the history that he's had, is so remarkable and such a lovely thing to be in the presence of.
What do you mean by that? That he was such a huge movie star?
He is such a huge movie star, and he has been for a very long time, and just amazing. And that's quite rare that someone stays at that level for that amount of time. It's pretty extraordinary, and then has the kind of grace and wit and humour and down-to-earthness that Harrison has. He's so cool.
You first worked with him on the film Mosquito Coast, and you said at the time that you were intimidated by him, and that he taught you a great deal about film acting.
Yes, he did.
Well, what did he teach you?
Well, he didn't, he wasn't aware of teaching me. He didn't say, "Now, Helen, this is what you do." But I learnt by watching him, and I learnt, the world I grew up in, we weren't filmed at all. We didn't have phones. We didn't grow up being filmed. So the whole thing of being on camera and being filmed was a very sort of frightening, intimidating process. And to understand what this does, what it does when you frame a face or a hand or a shoulder, so it was a process of watching him and understanding how he used the frame in expression, in either physical expression or facial expression, the way he absolutely knew how to use the frame. I can't explain it any better than that.
And what do you do on cowboy camp?
Well, you learn how not to be afraid of horses. And that was a great thing that cowboy camp did for me, was it made me love horses. I was always a bit frightened of horses. These big, weird things with their big noses and their eyes looking at you in a weird way. And it made me understand how I was going to swear, and I'm not going to swear, but how fabulous horses are. They are absolutely fantastic creatures. So sensitive, so hyper-aware, beautiful, beautiful things. So I learnt not to be afraid of horses, which was great.
Did they have you sort of galloping across?
No, I didn't. I said right at the beginning, I can't ride, and I can't. I've been on the back of a horse many, many times, and I've fallen off a horse at full gallop at least twice. So Taylor Sheridan said, that's fine, I'll put you in a buggy. So I had a buggy, so I drove a buggy, and that was fantastic.
So you learned how to drive a buggy?
Yeah, I learned how to. That I did do. I learned how to drive. I know how to drive a buggy now, yeah.
Which could come in handy.
Could definitely come in handy. Definitely one of these days.
If the acting doesn't work out.
Yeah, exactly.
You became an American citizen. Why was that important to you?
Well, my husband's American. My stepchildren are American. I'd spent obviously because of those reasons, spent a lot of my time in America. And it was just time. By then, I'd been married for, 20 years or something. I resisted for many years because I kind of felt it was a betrayal of being British. But I didn't fully grasp the fact that you could actually have two passports. And when I finally grasped that fact, and it didn't mean I was relinquishing anything of my British heritage, so then I went for it, yeah.
Do you feel different now that you're American?
I did feel different. They do a lovely thing when you arrive in America with an American passport. They say, welcome home. And the first day I presented my passport, and he said, welcome home. It was a fantastic, wonderful moment. It was really great. It made me cry.
And now you're making this series about this kind of
seminal
moment in American history.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And how fantastic that is. I mean, I wanted her not to have an American accent. I wanted her to be Irish because they were, We shot in Butte, a wonderful old mining town in Montana, not the sort of glamorous part of Montana at all, but very authentic and very true and wonderful for our purposes. And that town, it was fascinating history in that town. The miners came from Serbia, from Ireland, from Scotland, from Scandinavia. So you've got them at China. So you've got the memories of all of these. In its day, it must have been extraordinary in the 1920s. An extraordinary sort of mix of accents and voices on the streets, like New York today.
A melting pot.
Absolute melting pot. So I thought it was very important to have a voice in there that was clearly an immigrant voice.
One thing that's particularly remarkable about your performances is you play high. You've played lots of queens, but you've played servants as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that connected to your background, having a father who was an aristocrat turned taxi driver?
Yes, I mean, you play the roles that you're asked to do, and certainly, I guess in the choice of your roles, that's important too. But yes, I mean, our jobs as actors are to show all the wonderful, myriad, complicated world that humanity lives in, and all of it. You know, you can't just, you know, if you're lucky, and I've been very lucky, you get the opportunity to show, you know, many facets. But I've always made a point of whatever I've just done, I don't do that again. I deliberately choose something very different. So that has always been my sort of mantra in my work.
I've got one very superficial question for you. Feel free to not answer it. I've read that you follow a fitness program developed by the Canadian Air Force in the 1950s. Can that possibly be true?
It is true. I mean, it was true. I have to say I don't do it so much now, and I should get back into it. It is a great way to get into being fit.
12 minutes a day. That's it.
And you just do what they tell you to do. And you start very low, and you say, oh, this is just much too easy. And if it is, then you start making it more difficult for yourself. And then you go, oh, my God, no, this is really difficult. It can be quite challenging, but it works. It works. It's great.
So we should all cancel our expensive gym memberships and do the 12-minute-a-day Helen Mirren program.
You could do, absolutely, you could. It covers pretty well everything in your body.
I'm going to look into it. Thank you so much. That was delightful.
Pleasure.